Thank you for joining us today, Cathy.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Against the backdrop of the initial pilot project, can you describe the mission of Cosy Homes Oxfordshire?
Yes, well, to put it in a little bit of context, that according to the Climate Change Committee report in 2019, around a quarter of all greenhouse gas emissions in the UK come from the way we heat and power our homes. The UK has an old and inefficient housing stock, and about 80% of it, at least, will still be there in 2050. So in order to meet the government targets of net zero by 2050, we're going to need to retrofit in the order of about 28 million existing homes. And so that sort of breaks down to around 10,000 a week and just over one per minute.
That's a lot of homes.
Yes. And so Cosy Homes Oxfordshire is trying to address that. And it's a sort of one-stop shop home retrofit service that tries to make it simple for homeowners to improve the energy efficiency of their homes.
We hear the phrase zero carbon target a lot. What does this mean in actual terms for a householder?
That's a good question, and I think there's probably two parts to that. I think Ofgem estimate that each existing home emits about 3.5 tonnes of CO2 per year. So in order to reach net zero, anything approaching net zero by 2050, we would have to reduce that amount by about 95%. And I think you could only really get there by transitioning from heating that's based on fossil fuels to an alternative source of heating, such as an air source heat pump or ground source heat pump. And to put it in a sort of recognisable perspective, you could only make that 95% reduction in CO2 would be roughly the equivalent of driving in a petrol car 10,000 miles a year. I think lots of us don't really know what 3.5 tonnes of CO2 actually might look like or mean. So sometimes, those sort of figures can just help us imagine that.
10,000 miles in a car certainly sounds quite a lot of CO2 to me. Would you say that customers are engaging with you primarily for environmental reasons or through the long-term savings that can be made?
I would say a bit of both, actually. And at the moment, there are slightly more customers who are motivated by trying to help the environment. And they're trying to do that by reducing their carbon emissions and lowering their footprint through reducing their energy use in their homes. But I think nearly everyone would like to reduce their carbon their bills, and once you had energy efficient measures installed in your home, then your bills would start to reduce anyway, because you'd have your heat loss would be reduced drastically. And also here in Oxfordshire, Cosy Homes Oxfordshire is promoted through the Low Carbon Hub through 12 of its community groups, and they're already motivated by trying to help climate change. So I think that's why we have more, and there's so much more awareness lately. I mean, those community groups did a lot of work around Great Big Green Week on retrofit, and then that's been followed by COP26. So we're definitely seeing an increase in awareness about retrofitting. So
yeah, those community hubs can be real engines of activity, get things happening. Could you talk us through the typical journey a customer might go on to retrofit their house and reduce their energy bills?
Yes, and I would say that there's three important parts to that journey, and the first one is probably an online tool on the Cosy Homes Oxfordshire website, which is free to use, and that's called Plan Builder, because what we're finding is that there's a lack of really clear information out there about retrofitting, and most people say, I'd really like to do that, but I don't know where to start. And so with the Plan Builder tool, you put in the details of your home, and it already has existing data through EPC ratings for each home, and then it will then be able to give you as many retrofitting measures it can suggest them for your home and also give an estimate of costs. So that's a good starting point. And then if you decide you'd like to go further and you register with Cosy Homes Oxfordshire, an energy assessor would come and assess in quite a lot of detail your home, looking at heat loss, how much insulation you had, and what your heating system is. That information is then passed on to, is then made into what's a whole house plan, which is a key document that will then process all that information, and that's done by your Retrofit Coordinator, and they will then write up the whole house plan, which then lists every single measure that could be used to make your home net zero. It also gives you the costs, the approximate costs, and also how much carbon might be saved from doing that. And that is the third important stage is your Retrofit Coordinator. So each customer or client is assigned their own Retrofit Coordinator, who is the single point of contact for the whole project and stays with you the whole of the way through. They'll project manage everything, they'll source quotes, and they'll try to match you with the right contractor, with the right skills. And then they'll also sign off the work. And then there's a sort of 3-month period after that where they come back to check that everything's working and fix any snags. So
sounds like
in a nutshell, that's it.
sounds like a one-stop shop to get your house sorted.
Absolutely, yeah. Yes.
We're now all familiar with the phrase carbon footprints. How does Cosy Homes monitor its own carbon footprints in the projects undertaken?
Well, your whole house plan will always recommend natural materials with a low embodied carbon energy, such as wood fibre insulation, wool insulation, and recently they've started using a form of underfloor insulation that's made from recycled denim. So it's actually blue, and that's produced in the UK. And where possible, they try to use contractors and installers who are as local to Oxfordshire as possible. And they also try to make sure that waste is minimised, so that contractors working with Cosy Homes will always use licensed skip hire to dispose of waste, so that nothing goes to landfill and that any materials that can be recycled are, and they're taken from project to project.
Yeah. It's interesting to think that the blue denim jeans you might be wearing can one day end up in someone's insulation in the house. Right?
Yes.
We know that many householders are extremely reluctant to employ traders and building firms. What assurances can Cosy Homes give in terms of the overall quality and guarantees of workmanship?
Well, I mean, your Retrofit Coordinator will oversee that for you and will find a qualified contractor. And I mean, that's the question that most people ask us, and it's the thing that most homeowners and householders are afraid of and worry about, is the anxiety over finding a contractor is absolutely massive, and people are worried, is this the right person? Have they got the right skills? How are they insured? Will they go bankrupt? And all of those questions. So the delivery partner of Cosy Homes Oxfordshire is Retrofit Works, which is a multi-stakeholder cooperative based in London, and they have been putting together a pool of quite ruthlessly vetted and trusted contractors, and many of them are actually based in Oxfordshire, so that takes all of the stress out of that. And also Cosy Homes and Retrofit Works are scheme providers for Trustmark, which is a government endorsed quality and standard scheme that covers all work in the home.
Certainly sounds quite reassuring, because I think many of us will have had bad experiences with traders in our homes. Now that the pilot project has come to an end and Cosy Homes is now moving towards a business model, it estimates that 5 projects a year or 60 projects, 5 projects a month or 60 projects a year need to be undertaken to enable the retrofit initiative to be viable for the organisation. Now that is with an estimated cost of £23,000 per project. If this projection is accurate, what avenues of funding are available to help householders pursue such retrofit projects?
Okay, well this is the big one, the big question. And I mean, Cosy Homes Oxfordshire at the moment is for homeowners only, but general, and we hope that that will broaden out as the project proceeds. But generally, funding at the moment for retrofit measures, there's the Renewable heating incentive, which makes quarterly payments to homeowners who transition from fossil fuel heating to an alternate renewable heating system, and those payments take place over 7 years, and they're based on how much clean green heat that your system produces. So that could be in the region of between 10 and there was an estimate done just the other day on a Cosy Homes project, and £15,000 over 7 years. But that's coming to an end in March 2022. And so about 2 weeks ago, the government produced their long-awaited heat and building strategy, which is replacing the renewable heat incentive with the boiler upgrade scheme. And the details of that aren't all out yet, but as I understand it, that will give grants of £5,000 to anyone installing, coming off fossil fuels and installing an air source heat pump, and you get £6,000 for a ground source heat pump. But you can't just attach a heat pump to a house, install it without upgrading your insulation, and otherwise the heat that you're generating will just disappear out of the home. And there was no mention of any help or support for insulation in the heat and building strategy, and which is a bit of a disappointment. And also, installing a heat and running a heat pump would cost more than £5,000. It depends on the size of it and on the size of your house. So the householder will be expected, I think, to somehow find the rest of those costs. Yeah. And also, I think the boiler upgrade scheme is due to run for 3 years, and the funding that's in there will be enough for 90,000 heat pumps to be installed, which sounds like quite a lot. But in the government's own Green Industrial Revolution plan, they pledged that by 2028 that they would have installed 600,000 heat pumps. So there's quite a massive shortfall there, really.
And we still have that target of 28 million homes in total.
Yeah.
How many homeowners to date have participated in the local retrofit projects?
Well, since the pilot began in 2019, there have been over 600 registrations, and I think about 310 whole house plans have been issued, and there have been 10 retrofit. These numbers are changing all the time, so I have to glance at these. There are now 10 complete whole house retrofits finished, and there are 10 more that are booked to start very soon, and there are 3 live projects underway, 2 of which are in Oxford that I've been to, and they're quite exciting. So, and at the moment as well, because I mentioned earlier we're experiencing quite an increase in interest in the whole scheme. So, and for every 2 people who commission and receive a whole house plan, 1 of them is going forward for a full retrofit. So that's really encouraging, I think.
Sounds healthy. What one retrofit measure could all householders adopt, which is both financially and energy effective?
Well, that's the tricky question in a way, because Cosy Homes Oxfordshire uses a sort of holistic, whole house approach, and that your whole house plan is bespoke to your particular home. We all use our homes in a different way, and they're sort of heated in a slightly different way. But if I had to choose one thing that might help everyone, it would definitely be upgrading insulation, because without that, your heat's just literally disappearing. So
that's the blue jeans again, isn't it?
It's the jeans, yes. If you just stuffed your house with your old jeans, that would help, because that's if you upgraded to 45 centimetres of loft insulation, for example, some houses don't have any, but often it's still at 30 centimetres. And I mean, that's quite a simple measure that you could take. And then if you moved on to the more expensive ones, which is internal and external wall insulation. But you definitely see a difference there, and probably a lowering in your energy bills too, because you wouldn't need to heat your house so much. So,
I think one takeaway for us today is the plan builder that the organisation provides, which anyone can benefit from to assess a potential retrofit project for their home. Following the COP26 in Glasgow this last week, I have to mention this, what one takeaway would the organisation like to see implemented in the short and medium term?
Well, last Thursday was the dedicated Built Environment Day at COP26, and I don't think there were any unexpected earth-shattering policy pledges made, but it was really good to have vocalised and see that the UK Green Building Council and Retrofit Works contributed to this, and lots of architectural associations really spelt out clearly there's an overwhelming need for a joined-up, coherent national retrofit strategy. I mean, all the initiatives that are happening are a real step in the right direction and really good. But with 28 or so million homes to do in a relatively short period of time, I mean, even 2030 isn't that far away anymore. It used to be quite far in the distance, but now it's quite close. And so there needs to be a really good and conclusive strategy there, which is slightly missing at the moment. And there are several things with it that, we would hope it would contain, like a really obvious one would be skills training. Retrofit skills are slightly different to ordinary construction skills, and so to upskill existing contractors, and a lot of them are really keen to do that. It makes fantastic business sense because that's the future of the whole industry, so people should be trained and skilled now in order to carry those out. And young people, there's a lot of unemployment amongst young people, and apprenticeships and skills within that area I think would be brilliant. And then, because you'd be helping the environment as well as having a skill, and I think that could lead to jobs that people could be really proud of as well. So also, VAT on retrofitting projects is 20%. That could come down to 5% or even nothing to encourage it. And also encouraging retrofitting of existing buildings could be part of planning regulations with some imagination. And also the cut-off date, I mean, in the heat and building strategy, the cut-off, moving off a gas boiler and the sale of gas boilers is going to be phased out gradually from 2035, and I think that date could easily be moved closer and made quite conclusive at 2030. And at COP26 there was a lot of talking and a lot of data swimming around, and that was all great, but I think the time for action is absolutely now. So
there's some excellent ideas in all that, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.